Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter, or of course you can subscribe to the channel. Wow, what a moment. That is why boxing is such a magical sport. You are always 1 second away from being catapulted into an explosion of emotion to achieve a wondrous feat or being thrown into the depths of defeat. And that is why we all watch these warriors engage in combat in this arena. This spectacular atmosphere embellished it as well. It was superb. And listen, there was a lot made of the spiky pre-fight build-up. And I've covered this extensively on this channel, and I've covered it as well on Twitter, much to my own detriment. I had one or two people block me. And what can you do apart from try to be honest? I'm the sort of guy that doesn't like a witch hunt when I don't feel it's fair. I will basically speak up. And I just felt as though it was being a little bit misconstrued, the motives of what was being said and done. We've spoke about that. I don't think it was quite what was explained. Regardless of where you stand on that issue, the fact of the matter is, these supposed disgraces of men, you saw how they conducted themselves post-fight. Chris Eubank Jr. went over to Liam Smith on numerous occasions and congratulated him. He conducted himself with decorum like he always does, to be honest with you. Then you had Liam Smith. He didn't rub it in the face of Chris Eubank. Post-fight in the interview, he had Freudian slip of the tongue, and he actually accidentally said, I didn't expect it to be that easy, and he quickly corrected himself, and he said, not that easy, but I didn't expect it to end the way it ended. In other words, when Eubank was down, he didn't decide, I'm going to kick this guy, I'm not going to rub salt in the wound. He tried to protect Eubank from the emotional pain that he's going through. These are supposed guys that supposedly hate each other, right? So listen, congratulations to both of them for their conduct. In terms of the fight itself, let's talk about it. I did not expect the outcome. There were a lot of technical elements that certainly played out, and you saw them, and we'll talk about those. But in terms of the way it played out, the outcome of Liam Smith stopping him early, I did not see that happening. Congratulations to a couple of you that did call out Liam Smith winning the fight by stoppage. Ethan D, Jamie the Scouser out in Spain, off the top of my head. Congratulations to you guys for calling it. But even you guys predicted it would be late, right? I think Ethan D was saying rounds 8 to 10 or 11 or something. And Jamie the Scouser was saying 6 to 12. So I have not seen anybody say Liam Smith would get him early. So if you did, congratulations. Maybe there was one person. He escapes me right now. Let me know in the comment section down below if it was you. But listen, we spoke pre-fight about how Eubank has this fantastic agility. And it's a physical attribute that not many analysts talk about. In fact, I've never heard anybody mention it. People talk about balance, speed, reflexes, power, strength. You don't really hear about people talk about agility, and I spoke about how he's got that. And you heard Liam Smith post-fight say that he was struggling early doors with gauging that range because Eubank's very good at jabbing and then pulling out. And that is what we were talking about pre-fight, that agility to be able to punch, get on the back foot, lean out, roll at the hip and create space to throw those back-to-back uppercuts, which is what he did in that third round. We'll talk about all this in a moment. But you saw that applied. We also spoke pre-fight about how Liam Smith is a very good technical fighter, a very intelligent fighter, good ring IQ, whose foot positioning is a fantastic attribute that goes under the radar. His forward foot, his front toes are always pointing at an opponent. And a lot of fighters don't do that. They don't do it for different reasons. It can help you in some areas and it's disadvantaging you in other areas. But like Dimitri Bivol, he likes to point his lead toe at the opponent, which enables micro adjustments to turn with an opponent. And what you saw is that when he decided to finally start making his moves to try and pin Eubank up against the ropes, because of that brilliant foot positioning, he was able to do that. And when he got Eubank up on the ropes, you saw how accurate he was. The first 3 rounds, I actually had Eubank winning them. I know the first round was a swing round, not much happened, but I felt he was getting the better of it with the jab. The second round, you saw Eubank increase the intensity, really get behind the jab and dance, and things were looking fairly easy for him. Liam was trying to explode into combinations, but you saw that Eubank was doing a good job of frustrating him by changing the angle up and changing the distance up suddenly and then tying him up. In the third round, it was a really bad round for Liam Smith. He started to get caught with some big shots. He started to become too stationary. He wasn't engaging in any forward momentum to apply real foot pressure, which is something he's usually very good at. And he also wasn't getting out of the way or coming off the line. And you saw Eubank be able to drop the shoulder, bend at the hip, and then land back-to-back uppercuts. And he got the Red the Riot Act at the end of the round, did Liam Smith, and he came out in that following round. And that's when he decided to really start putting it on Eubank. And one of the shots that was on for him the whole night, and he had some success with it, was the right hand over the top as he's dipping to the left. left. We explained how he likes to lean over to the left quite a lot. He also likes to come forward when he's in the pocket, but in this particular regard, it was most often leaning to the left and throwing the over-the-top right hand. And Eubank, with that low lead languid hand, he wasn't really seeing it and ducking, and he was getting caught with it. Often it was clipping him, but you could see he was blinking a couple of times after it. It was a shot that was there for him. But when he finally got to him, you saw that he was able to be so accurate and how good his timing was. And I've spoken on this channel in the past about how there are different boxing philosophies in different nations. And one of the philosophies that exists in America particularly is the concept of upper body movement via the form of bending at the hip. You see a lot of American fighters who will not only come off the line, but you'll see them change their level quite a lot by bending really low, sometimes below the hip. And it makes them a very difficult target to land on. And if you don't use that, you're often considered to be one-dimensional in the US. You're considered to lack upper body movement, to have, and I quote, no special effects. Now, there are pros and cons to every martial arts system and every approach, because when you do that, you can put yourself in a position where you're out of position and you can't punch back, but it does make you a lot more elusive. And you do see a lot of fighters that struggle to land on the target when they're facing that sort of mover. You see guys like Mikey Garcia who are very good at dealing with it. So you saw guys like Adrian Broner completely unable to get away from Mikey when he's trying to change levels very quickly. Canelo Alvarez is very good at doing that. He used to be poor at doing it. And that's one of the reasons he struggled so much against Floyd Mayweather. By the time he fought Caleb Plant, you saw him start to use the head control and the timing. The head control enables the chop down right hand, the timing to bring the left shovel hook stroke uppercut into play. Your foot positioning matters a lot, so you can get the right angle and distance to be able to get that shot off. And not being able to deal with that can cause you a problem. We saw Josh Taylor struggle with it against Cattrall. We saw Kambosos struggle with it against Devin Haney in the first fight. And Kambosos used to be quite good at doing that. He actually dealt with Mickey Bay very well because he was able to do that. So it's a very vital offensive skill to have, but it's one that not many fighters master. You saw Liam Smith's timing be brilliant today when Eubank was able to get back on the ropes and try and use the upper body movement to try and roll with shots. Now, there is a question mark I have to have over Eubank and his future in terms of his link up with Roy Jones Jr. Because although I totally understand why he's linked up with Roy Jones, and I'm not one of those people that's saying he's caught between two styles, because if that granite chin is no longer granite, and it didn't look like granite tonight, then you can't have this approach that he used to have where I'm going to come in there and just stand in the pocket and start exchanging big hooks and uppercuts with you. You're going to have to adapt. And if that means getting on the back foot and using that long reach and reflexes, and he's got a lovely long reach, Eubank, and his timing when someone's trying to jump in on him is brilliant. The little lead jabs, the little lead hooks, they're very good, and they were causing Liam Smith problems. You're going to need to continue to develop that. The problem is, though, when Roy Jones got towards the latter part of his career and he lost these reflexes, he lacked survival instincts. He didn't know how to effectively change the distance when he's back up on the ropes and come in low and then thrust in with the shoulder the way Jack Cattrall or Devin Haney like to do. He didn't know how to have an active guard to be able to block certain shots in areas but roll with them at the same time. He'd have a high guard and just try to sort of move around with shots. Eubank would have lower hands. He's not got the same high guard, but he's rolling essentially, and he's not closing that gap. He was in survival mode but trying to use movement. And against an accurate fighter like Liam Smith, it's almost as though he didn't have the right survival instincts. Even when he got hurt, he was up at like the count of 1. What he should have been doing is staying on his knee, looking at the referee, focusing intently. When he gets to the count of 8, stand up. Not only does that give you a longer amount of time between the exchanges again, it also enables you to compose yourself so that when you get up, you're not stumbling all over the place. He didn't do that. A lot of that is down to inexperience, in the same way that a fighter who's cut for the first time might go into a panic mode. That's what happened to Eubank tonight. So I wonder whether Roy Jones is the right guy for him when it comes to survival instincts, when Roy Jones himself as a fighter was not acutely aware of survival instincts. Incredible fighter, but towards the latter part of his career, when you're watching him against Macaronelli, when you're watching him against Antonio Tarver, there were some moments where he didn't really know how to survive, like the journeyman type stuff. Is this a case of the chickens coming home to roost? Because early in his career, maybe Eubank was a little bit too arrogant, and he felt that you could only learn from the elite guys in the sport in terms of the Mayweathers and the Roy Joneses. Sometimes there'll be guys that might not have the big names, but they've trained different levels of fighters, and there's a different skill when it comes to survival than when it comes to you being explosive. So I don't know, who knows? Let me know what you think about that in terms of the future of Chris Eubank. If this chin issue is down to him coming down in weight, like the pundits felt that he's not really a middleweight and he should be back up at super middleweight, what does this say about the future of Eubank? Because he was too small for super middleweight and that's why he came down to middleweight. Is he one of those guys who's just stuck between two weight categories and so he's not going to have success ever? That's another problem. The other thing he's going to have to think about are the psychological impacts of this. When you are feeling as though you're bulletproof and nothing can affect you, you're Teflon, things just bounce off you. When all of a sudden you experience that sort of damage against a smaller man who's not recognized as being a puncher, how do you overcome that mentally? Is it going to make you too risk averse moving forward? In which case you also have to ask yourself about the general mentality of Chris Eubank Jr. He lost his brother Sebastian, God rest his soul, and he's become like a surrogate father figure. He has changed in terms of his outward personality too. He used to be much more aloof and moody and distant. And although they still call him 10-word Chris in the gym as a nickname because he's apparently not very talkative, the fact of the matter is he's become a lot more open to the public. Is this because he's reflecting? He's observing the valuable aspects of life, in which case he's looking at family and things like that. Well, then his mindset might not be on the warrior code anymore, as his father would put it. So where does he go from here? Does he retire? Let me know what you think. In terms of Liam Smith, career-defining moment. What a fantastic performance. What a fantastic display. What a memory that he's managed to notch up on that bedpost. I guess what you could say now of Liam Smith is, does he go for Kell Brook? There's a lot of talk of Brook coming out of retirement. Brook too, also towards the end of his career, showed a lot of signs of having a chin that is no longer what it used to be. But because of that Amir Khan win, and Khan himself was washed, it's the sort of thing that would sell. And we know it would sell, and you'd have to say Liam Smith would be a hot favourite at this stage of their careers. So maybe he goes for that and goes for the money, and it's the sort of fight that it will have casual crossover appeal, so it would raise his stock. Or does he strike while the iron's hot and try and go for one of the really big boys? Go for one of the elites, Golovkin, Janibek, Charlo. Does he go for one of these guys and try and really etch his name in the annals of time? Let me know what you think, ladies and gents, about the fight and everything we've spoken about. I will be doing another video discussing the technical elements of all the undercard fights. I'll do that right now, in fact. Thank you for watching, ladies and gents. Please don't forget to hit a stiff jab on the like button, a right cross on the subscribe button, and an uppercut on the notifications button. Thanks for watching. Chat to you soon. Take care. God bless.